aside for a rainy day in case of financial difficulty. Thirdly, we have taken forward a longer-term economic strategy that we have called Europe 2020 for sustainable growth. And I insist on the word sustainable because we have seen that growth fueled by debt, public debt or private debt, is not indeed sustainable. And now we have a much more focus on the need of a sustainable, inclusive, smart growth. In the response to the crisis, Europe has grown closer together. We had to find ways to make our economies more balanced across all sectors and to reverse the trend of economic divergence. Today, the European Union looks at draft national budgets ahead of adoption and offers country-specific recommendations on their economy, flagging up any macroeconomic imbalances, identifying whether debts or savings are too high, whether more investment, reform and action are required in different sectors of our economy, in agriculture, industry, education, health, research and innovation. I can assure you that ultimately, responsibility in these areas rests with the member states. But one of the lessons learned from this crisis was that within one currency area, a crisis of the smallest country can spill over into a systemic crisis of the whole euro area. Every important reform at national level, whether carried through with determination or whether postponed or rejected, has an impact on the rest, either for better or for worse. These were our challenges, and these were the choices we made. Today, we can see that the strategy is working to get us back on track. This has been the worst crisis since the beginning of the European integration. And its effects have been painful in many member states, and indeed still are. However, the European Union has emerged from recession, and recovery, we already have a recovery, will strengthen, according to our forecasts already this year, and even more notably next year. GDP is expected to grow 1.5% this year, 2% next year. Budget deficits have been halved. Consumer industrial confidence is returning, and so are industrial investments. Interest rates have come down and helped borrowers. On the downside, this is clearly our biggest concern, levels of unemployment, specifically youth unemployment, are still very high, unacceptably high. Even if we see also in this indicator some positive developments in the most recent quarters, either a stabilization or even a reduction of the overall figures of unemployment. Above all of this, and this is clearly our most important achievement of the past 5 years, the existential threat to the euro is behind us. The European Union's firm actions have restored the trust of our global partners. We proved doomsayers who predicted the Greek exit and implosion of the euro were wrong. We had to fight hard. In some of those contexts that you, Mr. Hector, mentioned some time ago with our American president, or the Chinese president, or prime minister, or the Japanese, the Russian, and the Brazilians, I had to answer the question, do you believe the euro is going to survive? It was a precise question, because some of those countries have huge reserves in euro. And I've said always, yes, I'm sure it will survive. And one of the answers I was giving, because they were questioning me more, I have to tell you, more about Germany than about the deficits of Greece. They were asking me, do you believe Germany will stand by the euro? And I said, yes, I'm sure Germany will stand by the euro. Because Germany has made a fundamental political decision to link the future of Germany to the future of Europe. And Germany has clearly stated that the future of the euro is decisive for the future of Europe. So we were in the extremely difficult circumstances where the markets had no confidence in some of our countries, not in the euro as such in the beginning, in some of our countries that were contaminating the system. But, of course, some of us would have preferred a bolder, quicker response, but the reality is that today we don't have to answer those questions. And today, when with my colleagues from Europe, I go to the G20, I can tell you, I don't have to answer these questions anymore. And also, I don't have to receive some lessons, including coming from some countries that they are not always the best in running themselves. And that during the crisis were trying to tell us how we should do things. So I think we should be proud, without arrogance, but proud, that Europe has shown its resilience. Not only European institutions, European countries. The reforms that have taken place in Ireland, in Portugal, in Spain, are impressive. Even Greece, sometimes people are underestimating the big efforts that Greece has made. Now, Greece has the first historical result of a primary surplus that they have not seen for so many decades. So a lot has been done, and I think it should be recognized, even if I know that today it's very fashionable to be pessimist in Europe. I think some commentators believe they look more intelligent if they keep that pessimism. And frankly, this is something I cannot accept. Because one of the deficits we have in Europe, comparing with Americans, comparing with Brazil, comparing with other parts of the world, a deficit that's worse than the budget deficit is a deficit of self-confidence in Europe. And I believe we as Europeans have the capacity to solve the problems, not less than the others, I'm sure, probably not more. But I think with our capacities, our intelligence, our critical thinking, our culture, we are able to solve the problems. And we are showing the world that we can solve the problems. Of course, now we have to recognize that we are not yet completely out of the crisis. We cannot say we are out of the crisis with those very high figures on unemployment. What is now important is to stay on track, to keep the line, not to give up, to preserve what we have achieved. We are not at the end of our reform process. Some member states are more advanced than others. The biggest risk and the biggest mistake now will be to lean back and return to the old Schlendrian. This we cannot afford. This European Commission, together with others, has done an enormous job in getting us out of the crisis and laying the foundations to prevent future crises. I'm sure the next Commission will continue this job. Mr. President, ladies and gentlemen, before coming here to speak to you, I had the great pleasure of exchanging ideas already on this campus with some of the best talents of your university. Most of them were scientists in mathematics and medicine. And although this is not my personal specialty, I was impressed to see how much Europe has actually become the frame of reference for your work. In innovative cities such as this, and even in a country as big and strong like Germany, you understand very well that you need this European dimension to compete globally in areas such as research and science. I don't believe that anything epitomizes our challenges and choices better than our need to improve our education at secondary and tertiary levels.